Gonna make you feel good. Gonna make you feel good. Gonna make your mind.
Hi guys, it's Alan here. Today I want to make a video on one of my favourite subjects, the brain. Well, more the subconscious and how it controls us. And I hear you say, oh, my subconscious doesn't control me. Well, it does. Watch on and be prepared to be amazed. This is such an incredible subject, and I think it really should be taught in schools. So let's have a look. It all began in the 70s with the original Star Trek series. I was always impressed with Mr. Spock. "That is illogical, Captain," was his catchphrase. I had just started my own small business and began to think that I should only make logical decisions, not emotional ones, for best business results. This led to a deep interest in the brain and all sorts of questions. What is an emotional decision and how to detect it? How can I focus on pure logic? What is the meaning of life? Well, no, not really. But sometimes something can trigger an interest that leads us to greater things. If we could control our emotions, we could make better decisions. It must have worked because I have been called a cold-hearted bastard at times. It led me to go on and train as a counsellor and study psychology at OU. I've read a multitude of books on the subject, gravitating to self-development. Eric Berne wrote the book Games People Play, The Psychology of Human Relationships. Berne created the theory of transactional analysis as a way to explain human behaviour. Berne's theory was based on the ideas of Freud, but his views were distinctly different. I also never agreed with Freud. He seemed to overcomplicate things, and I do not want to overcomplicate things now. There is so much going on in the brain that it's sometimes difficult to know what is real and what you feel. However, our subconscious controls some 95% of our actions. Why? For a start, it did everything before we developed our thinking bits. It was important for our survival and still tries to influence and guide us. Also, conscious action is extremely tiring, and while subconscious action is almost effortlessly, this is why we are happy to let everything just float by on its own most of the time. Learning a new skill is tiring, like learning to ride a bike or drive a car. It is challenging, even stressful. At first, some things seem impossible. But once learnt, we glide along without trying. Have you ever tried to juggle? So difficult. And yet once mastered is automatic. The brain knows how the ball leaves your hand with how much pressure will determine where it will land. So places your hand in exactly the right place. I mean, that is staggering if you think about it. I'm going to give a brief overview of the brain. It's far too complicated to go into detail here. We will just look at three main areas. However, nothing about the brain is black and white. The different areas can interact and influence each other to a certain extent. The human brain is the most complicated machine in the universe. We're only concerned with the conscious and subconscious, wherever they lay. The brainstem. The brainstem we share with reptiles. They're not very bright. This is responsible for body functions like blood pressure, etc., heart rate and digestion. Things going on that we don't need to think about. We're not concerned with this here, but it's where our nerves connect. with the brain in the base. The limbic system. The limbic system is a set of brain structures located on top of the brainstem and buried under the cortex. The limbic system structures are involved in many of our emotions and motivations, particularly those that are related to survival, such as fear and anger. Fear and anger are closely related. I will go into that later. The limbic system is also involved in feelings of pleasure that are related to our survival, such as those experienced from eating and sex. This is a control center that you cannot easily access. This is your subconscious. This is where the amygdala is situated. Just there. This is the main center of your emotions. This is like a computer chip processing all the information coming in. It receives signals from the neocortex, like when you make a decision. It also receives info from the thalamus. The thalamus processes sensory messages and then passes the info to the neocortex, lets you think about it. The cortex is made up of several lobes, the brain's outer layer, the biggest being the frontal lobes. The frontal lobe is the same part of the brain that is responsible for executive functions such as planning for the future, judgment, decision making, skills, attention span, so thought, conscious thought, where you do your thinking, where you are right now. The frontal lobes, the thinking area, actually exists in all mammals, but are very small and, I should imagine, non-functional. Only ours have developed greatly, causing a large increase to the front of the skull. It is important to note that information signals going to the brain reach the amygdala twice as fast as the frontal lobes. So your subconscious knows what's going on before you do. And we can be surprised and react before we know what's going on, like hitting the brakes when another car pulls out, sometimes leading to a state of confusion. This shows how important it is to our survival. Let me think. The amygdala sifts through the info and passes on to you what it feels you need to know. Remember, your subconscious cannot think, but it can decide what to let you in on. In fact, it can decide what something is when not getting enough info. That's a guess, right? And not letting you know that it's a guess, so you take it as gospel. Whoa, I hear you say, this is getting crazy. Okay, I'm sure you've heard of two people both swearing they see something different. In the middle of the 20th century, an Austrian professor, Theodor Erisman, turned a man's eyesight exactly upside down using prism goggles. After a short while, the man took this completely in his stride. After 10 days, everything looked normal. But when he took them off, everything looked upside down again. So his amygdala decided the view was wrong and changed it before sending the vision to his cortex. Now, that was not a major change. The world was still the world after all. But remember this, things are not always what they seem. There are a number of people that have had life-threatening fits. Their brains were surgically split into two halves. The two sides of the brain could no longer communicate. This works for curing the fit for some reason, and while it is a weird experience for them, it did not cause any major problems. However, a documentary about one lady showed something odd. The two sides of the brain are responsible for different functions. sight one side, touch the other, etc., etc. I'm sure you get the picture. She had to identify everyday objects without touching them. You know, knife, spoon, comb, toothbrush, etc. She was told what they would be, but she could not touch them. And it was obviously guessed, got them all wrong. All of them. She didn't even get one of them right. She was not told that, by the way. She thought she was right. After all, she'd used these things every day of her life. How could she get them all wrong? The important clue here is that her brain must have guessed, but not let her know it was a guess. This is perfectly true. I watched the Horizon documentary. You just can't believe all that you see. Scary. Is this why important information reaches the amygdala before our frontal lobes? So it can mess about with the info before we receive it? Wow, that's all a bit much, really. It seems then that our subconscious is what we inherited from animals. We were an animal once. We evolved from some sort of primate. This is why I believe animals do not think. Not only do they have an extremely small cortex, but they do not have a language. We think in words. I realised this when I asked a Spanish friend if he thought in Spanish and then converted it to English. He said that would be too slow. He thought in English when talking to me. So how can an animal think without a language? Animals can visualise, can see an image of a predator, etc., when hearing one. This is how memory experts can memorise a series of numbers. They make a story in rhyme and visualise pictures of the story. Rhymes of numbers like one sun, two shoe, three tree, etc. Just like an animal, we can remember pictures far better than abstract numbers. Step out of your house and a bird flies away, scared. It flies instantly. It did not sit there thinking, is this person dangerous? So we say it did it automatically. I do not like the term automatic because the bird's brain had to signal the muscles in its wings to flap. A fear response. However, I shall use the term now and again for convenience. It's like when driving and that person walks out in front of you, you hit the brake before you can think. Automatic, you might say, but your brain had to signal a bunch of muscles to move your foot from one pedal to another and push down with the correct amount of pressure. This is hard evidence that your animal brain can control your body's movements without actually letting you know or asking permission. Scary, but useful at times. So your subconscious is an amazing piece of kit, like a computer chip. It controls all body functions and more. Its ability to learn is quite amazing. We learn to drive, ride a bike, walk, etc. Have you ever watched a baby trying to walk? Its brain is actually learning which nerve connects to which leg muscle, and it has an awful lot to choose from, and at such speed. So we still have our animal brain. Think about this. You feel hungry, brainstem basic needs. Nothing in the fridge, you still need to do the week's shopping. You think, what shall I have? After some thought, you decide to drive across town and get a burger. This was a decision. A decision is extremely important, and I will explain later. You grab your keys, go out and get in the car, drive across town and enter the shop. Only then you might think, shall I have a drink with my big smack? That might have been your first thought since leaving home, unless you were thinking about getting some shopping or maybe work. But you did not put any thought into the journey, yet you arrived safely and effortlessly. It is not incredible, is it not incredible that a part of your brain that you cannot see into has completed such a series of complex tasks all on its own? All on a simple command, your decision. I know we are so used to this that we do not give it a thought. Our animal brain is far more powerful than our conscious brain. It was only on learning to use tools that we developed our frontal lobes, as we had to name the tools for convenience, which led to a language. So you think, make a decision, and your animal brain carries out, yes? Well, not always. If it feels the action could hurt or cause a problem, it may make you feel uncomfortable to put you off. Now, we are not chased by wild predators anymore, but your animal brain does not know the difference between primeval predators and the modern rat race. Remember, one Saturday you decide to ring a manager for good reason. But come Monday, as you pick up the phone, you think many off-putting thoughts, like they may be busy, they may get angry, they're not happy Monday morning, I'll call tomorrow. Been there before. I'm sure you have many times. But why did you not have those thoughts on Saturday when you made the decision? You see, dear old amygdala is going to nurse you through life like plain sailing. However, some of you will go on and get it done, whatever. In '83, I had to borrow from a merchant bank to buy a business. I had done the calculations over and over and made the decision. But walking down the street in London's West End, I started to think, don't do this. Who do you think you are? They will laugh at you. A whole stream of negatives. They were not really my thoughts. I had done all my thinking on the subject. I call the subconscious the alien within, and I told it to F off. So be careful of your thoughts, especially negative ones. Always ask yourself, why did I think that? A man comes home after a bad day's work. He thinks, I need a scotch, and gets drunk. He does this a number of times, and his subconscious causes him to make mistakes at work in order to go home and get drunk. An extreme example. But just how does one become an alcoholic? Addiction's in there somewhere. The clue here is not to celebrate a bad day, only celebrate success. This will help you grow, not hold you back. How many times have you entered a room and thought, what did I come in here for? You made the decision to go there, then forgot why as you were busy. Your subconscious carried out your command, but it does not know what you want. It can only carry out functions it understands. So if you want to improve your life, you have to influence your subconscious and restrict it influencing you. The main influence is fear. We like to stay in our comfort zone, not do anything that makes us feel uncomfortable. A good book on this is Susan Jeffers' Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Why influence our subconscious? We do not want it to dampen our development by making us feel uncomfortable every time we try to improve our lives. It does this just to keep us safe. In the next video, I'm going to explain how, with a little effort, you can train your alien brain to do what you want, to help you grow, to improve your life, even to achieve success. Your subconscious is not you, it's a compilation of experiences. It's an alien. Don't let the bastard grind you under. If you just take the easy route, you are up that creek without a paddle, drifting through life like a piece of flotsam. It takes work, effort to achieve greatness. If you want things to change, best start with you. If you do not change, things will stay the same. You will always have what you have and be where you are. I have to stop now. Look, the buffalo are going home, so I've got to go. But I hope you found that informative and you can change your life. Question your thoughts. Think about it. Don't be too hasty. In the next video, I think I will show you how you can train your subconscious to change your life and get what you want. Become wealthy or whatever you want. It can be done. So have a look at the next video and I'll see you again soon. Bye.